Hi, guys. This is Carlin Liborio with Teaching RLA with Carlin Liborio. And I just wanted to make a quick video to kind of show you my thinking process in how I write an ECR, an extended constructed response. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that by looking at a resource that I just made, which is a fifth grade extended constructed response based on the Lego passage that was on one of the release star tests. So it's from 2013. So the very first step, and I'm telling you this, and the reason I'm making this video is because when you are showing your students the model of the essay and you're showing them this planner that's completely filled out, and then you're showing them the final essay, the final copy, it might help to know the thought process behind it. And that way, what you could do for the second one after showing them the model is I would recommend that you write one together by asking them what you should write and you kind of scribe or type what they're telling you as a class. So that would be called the shared writing. And then after you've done one together, and that the one that you kind of do together is where you can really take advantage of modeling your thinking process and how you take it step by step. And you can kind of prompt the kids, let's start with this and then let's do this next. And can you help me find evidence? And so they're part of the process, but by doing it together, that's kind of when the magic happens. But in order to do that, you kind of need to know how to write one yourself. So that's why I wanted to go through this to help you. And also, after that step, you might want to have them do one in a group, like a collaborative group. It could be their table group of 4 kids, it could be partners, however you want to do it. But that's another way you can scaffold it before they go and just do it totally on their own. Okay, so step one is I tell them to copy the question words in the RA box. So on the planner, they would, if they're doing this in Eduphoria, they would have or on the Real Start, they would have the passage on the left and they would have the question on the right. And they would have the box where they type also on the right. And then hopefully they're going to have a piece of paper in front of them where they're going to be writing their planner. So to do the planner, they would be making this. So the first half of the year, I kind of give them the planner. We've actually already started training them how to make their own planner on a piece of paper. But anyway, they would have the R and the A, and the very first thing they need to do is they need to copy the question words into their RA box on their piece of lined paper or on their planner. So I teach them to highlight those question words. So the question, I'm going to go back up to the question. The question was, here it is. Explain how Lego has designed its products to appeal to people of all ages. So I've already highlighted these keywords on the resource for you. All they would have to do is not copy the question word. They're not going to copy the word explain or how, but they're going to start their sentence with Lego has designed its products to appeal to people of all ages by, and then they would add that word by, and then they would just leave it. So that is the first step. So I'm going to go down to the planner. Okay. So then I did not answer the question unless you know the answer. But usually when I look at an ECR, I don't know the answer right away. I've got to go back and dig and find evidence. And then by doing that process of finding the evidence, then I'm able to write that answer, which I kind of underlined here to show you the difference between the R and the A. Now, you might be saying, it's not good to copy the exact same words. Every kid's going to start with the same sentence. That's okay in the beginning, because what you can do as part of the revising process is they could go back and they could find synonyms, or they could write their sentence in a different way from somebody else. So that can be tweaked when they get to the final copy. But if they at least copy the question words at the very beginning, if especially if you're new to this, then they're going to definitely answer the question. And if they don't copy those words, they might be off in left field. They might answer, we've seen a lot of kids where they just answer the wrong question. They don't even, it doesn't have anything to do with the question. So I think you have to start with copying those question words and then leave it blank until you find your evidence. So that leads me into step 2. So step 2 is until you know the answer, you're going to start looking for the evidence that answers the question and find evidence and copy it. And when you copy the evidence, I teach my students to write P1 or P2, whatever paragraph they found it in, because they might need to go back to it and they will not be able to find it. So they always start by writing, and you'll see here it'll say P5. And in some of these, I have like P6. Yeah. And then some of them I didn't write it. I didn't write the paragraph because this was still part of P6. Okay. So they write the paragraph and they start looking in the passage for evidence. So if they're doing this on a computer, they're going to be highlighting it and then copying it. Now, instead of copying it right on the planner, another really great strategy that you could do is give them some colored Post-it notes and give them like 3 or 4. And on each Post-it, they can copy the text evidence from the passage. And then they can stick the Post-it on the boxes. So that way, if they decide, oh, it makes more sense to put this first or to put this in the middle, they can kind of rearrange it without having to erase. Now, another option, if you don't want to use Post-its, is they could still write it on their planner. And then if they decide to do it in a different order, they could draw arrows. And then when they do their final copy, they can just put it in that better order. Okay, so then I have a tip. Keep going back to the question and keep reading the question over and over as you're finding text evidence to make sure that you're answering the question. Make sure your evidence is proving your answer, because that's the whole point. So this question, like I said, was how Legos were designed. How did they design their products to appeal to people of all ages? So when I was looking through the passage, the first thing I found was in paragraph 5, and they talked about how the guy who invented Legos used really high quality and had high standards, and that's why they lasted and they still last for many years. And then there was another sentence at the end of the paragraph that said that Lego bricks made today can be attached to any other Lego brick that's been made since 1958. So that's pretty cool. And then what I think that shows, going back to the question, if it's asking about how are they designed to appeal to different ages. So what does this evidence have to do with that? How it's designed is the high standards or high quality. So I underlined that so that I'm going to stay focused on that, what that has to do with the question. The other thing that has to do with the question is they can attach to any other Legos. So in other words, what does that mean? And the explain, I think, is the hardest thing for students to do. So when you get to the E, look what I wrote here. I said, this proves that Lego designed its products with high quality materials and a universal design that can be shared with friends and family over the years. So I'm basically explaining how this design, where they basically didn't change their design at all, and they made it such a high quality that grandpa that had it in 1958 can still be used with their grandchildren, the same Lego set. So that's kind of what that point is. And then I kind of did it in sequential order. So then paragraph 6, it talks about then they started to make different shape Legos. So even it's kind of interesting how they stayed the same, But then when they started making all these different shapes, that appealed to the younger kids. So I underlined different shaped Lego bricks. I underlined variety available. And then how I explain that is I said, this shows that even though Lego kept its original design, it also evolved by creating different shaped Lego bricks to appeal to a wider audience. So it's kind of like if kids are struggling with the E, you can just say basically when they start doing the E, it's like they are going back and they are not repeating what's in the C, but they're kind of summarizing what it means without repeating the exact same words. And they have to basically the prompts you can give them is you can say, how does it answer the question in your own words? What does it mean? What does it show? Or what does it prove? And so, and then I kind of underline the points that answer the question, just like I did over here in the evidence. So, high quality materials, universal design shows that, and then this is where they start evolving in the shape, which going back to the question, that has to do with the design. Does it have to do with design? Yes. Does it have to do with ages? Yes, because you're saying that this gave an appeal to a wider audience. So you're still answering the question. And then the third one talks about how they even designed special, larger, and easier Lego bricks for preschoolers that were easier to handle for toddlers. And then for teens, they made those detailed pieces that were more challenging. So what does that show? This evidence shows me that Lego adapted or changed its design for all ages by making different designs depending on the age of the user. So I'm kind of summarizing what it says over here. This makes Legos great for all ages to enjoy. Okay, so after I did all that, then I went back and answered the question. So let me just go back to my notes. So, step 3, you organize the evidence where it makes sense. So I did start off just copying and pasting evidence, and then I did rearrange it. I started off kind of putting some of this first, and then I kind of changed my mind about the order. So that was the next step. Cut and move the evidence if necessary, or do it on Post-its or use arrows if you're not typing your planner on a computer. Step 4 is you start paraphrasing what is copied and simplify it. So instead of just quoting everything over here, because that would, one, it would just look like I copied most of the passage, but two, it shows a higher level of thinking if your kids can paraphrase. So what I like to do is I like to copy the exact quote, and then I kind of go through and delete words from the sentence to like this one, I kind of combined 3 sentences and put commas in between. So I didn't put quotes around this because I changed a lot of the words. So first I copied it, then I went back and paraphrased it. This one, number 2, I didn't want to paraphrase that because it was more like a fact with the number of Lego bricks. That one I kept, both of these I kept as a quote just to show you the difference between paraphrasing and quoting and how you can do both. And then this one I paraphrased, number 3. Okay, so then after you paraphrase it and you simplify it, you can go back and underline some of the points or the themes. So I went and underlined some of those to keep me focused. Step 5 is you write out the explain. Do not repeat what is in the C or the evidence. You're kind of summarizing without repeating. How does it answer the question in your own words? What does it mean? What does it show or what does it prove? And then step 6 is you go back and you answer the RA. So then I was like, okay, now with my underlining, I can see certain themes. I can see this was about the high quality materials. They kept the design the same. Then they created different shape Legos, and then they made a special one for toddlers and more challenging ones for teens. So then I kind of summarized that and I said, Lego has designed its products to appeal to people of all ages by sticking with high quality materials that have stayed exactly the same over the years, along with inventing new pieces that are specific to certain ages. So that's how I kind of summarize that. Now, this is fifth grade. If they don't necessarily have to do that, I like to do that just to show them how they could take it to a higher level. Even if they just put Lego has designed its products to appeal to people of all ages by, and they kind of wrote a simpler answer, that would be fine too. So then the next step after you kind of summarize, what you've written is you go back and you write the S. So after you do the RA, then you write the S. And I like to do both of those kind of last. It depends on the prompt, but in this case, because I didn't know the answer, I did them last. So then you would write the S, and the S is similar, but you're going to use different words. So let me show you what I wrote for the S. Legos. So I tried to change the sentence. So up here I put Lego has designed its products to appeal to people of all ages. Down here I put Legos are a favorite for all due to, and then I use synonyms. So I said superior materials instead of high quality. I said, oops, I said simple, unchanged design. And then I broke this into two sentences. In addition, they stay popular by constantly inventing new shapes and designs specifically for young and old builders in mind. Okay, so see how that's slightly different from the RA, but it's kind of the same. Okay, and the last step is you want to, start putting this into sentences or copy and paste it in my case, but they would go from their planner and they would start typing it into sentences. And as they're doing that, they are revising. If they notice repetition, they're going to maybe look in the online dictionary and try to find a better word, a synonym, because it does, give them, it gives them the definition, but we did notice that it often gives a synonym as well. If they're doing this on Google Classroom, they could open another tab and they could type the word. Let's say they're looking for another word for high quality. They could type high quality synonym, and then a whole bunch of synonyms will come up. Or they could go on thesaurus.com and you can add that as a favorite, or dictionary.com, and then they can look that word up and find synonyms for it. Okay, so then after they type it, they're going to go back and read it 3 times. So when you're doing this with your kids and you're doing the shared one, I would model this. I would say, "Okay, now we're going to read it and let's stop after, each paragraph or whenever it's appropriate, and let's listen for any repetition or if there's a better way to say something, and keep making changes, keep revising. And also, while you're doing that, you're editing if you see a mistake. And teachers, you can even make mistakes on purpose. And then you can go back and say, "Oh, I noticed there's not a period here," or, and show them how you would go back and revise and edit. So I like to read it 3 times, and each time I read it, I'm looking for mistakes. So if you look at this, you'll see that I completely changed the RA. So, and you can kind of flip between the two to see the difference. So this one says sticking with high quality materials, and this says that part was the same, sticking with high quality materials that have stayed the same over the years. This said exactly the same. I just changed it to the same. So I kind of simplified that while simultaneously. So that was a word that I added in when I revised it. So while simultaneously inventing new shapes. Let's see what I wrote up here. while inventing new pieces that are specific to certain ages versus while simultaneously inventing new shapes of Legos specific to certain age groups. So see how I kind of went back and tried to revise it. So I did that on purpose so that if you guys want to teach a lesson where you're having the kids, what would be kind of fun is if you printed these, you could even just print them in black and white or in color, whatever. And then I would have the students try to make notes and notice what is different between the planner and the final copy, because that might help them if they see a model of it, that might help them of what they need to do on their paper when they revise. So you can definitely point out those differences between the planner and the final copy. So then, yeah, basically I went through and I tried to find synonyms for some of the words. I added in, like, instead of this idea, I said this genius idea. I changed some things in the conclusion. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what goes on during the thought process of writing an extended constructed response. So if you watch this video, that will hopefully help you to guide your students. All right, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on my Facebook page, Teaching RLA with Carlin Liborio. I will post products, videos, tips, all kinds of things on that page. So check that out, and thank you for watching. Bye.